Your Denver Broncos get the absolute answer key about Weapon X, who could ensure that Bo Nix does not have a sophomore slump. In today's video, we're going to break down wide receivers, running backs, and tight ends who are rocketing up Sean Payton's draft board, and a couple names who we had penciled in who are falling harder and crashing faster than the phrase Broncos country, let's ride, did after Russell Wilson was cut. In this video, we got to break all that down and more. If you're new to the channel, I'm a diehard Denver Broncos fan named Ben. It helps me in the YouTube algorithm out a ton if you would like and subscribe. So we have Sean Payton in attendance. He's wearing the exact same yellow hoodie he wore for his his pre-draft conference just a couple days ago. I'm hoping he washed it. And he is on site as he watches the deepest running back class we've ever seen. You're seeing multiple plugged in reporters, multiple former players say, man, this rookie running back class is wild. You're having Chase Daniels say, like, this is the deepest running back class we've had in years. We know that the NFL swings on a pendulum, and it was like that was the most important position in football for a long, long time. And it's swung away from that, and now it is swinging back where we have insane amounts of talent coming out of this running back class. Totally agree with this take on here that it's hard to watch this running back class and justify giving a first-round pick on any of these guys because they are all so good. The fact that at this level is that if we went on to YouTube, we could find a highlight reel that would make you over the moon excited about any of these guys. And what's beautiful about the NFL Combine is that when we watch a highlight of a guy just breaking off this tackle, you can't recreate those conditions and see, well, how would Omarion Hampton done in that situation, or how would Tootin have done in that situation? And so what's amazing about the Combine is that every single player is going through the exact same thing. So you can kind of have an apples to apples comparison. And it is hard to look at these apples to apples comparison and say that it warrants drafting a running back at the 12th overall pick, where you're hearing the Raiders might be interested at Genty at 6. They have so many problems that if they get a running back at 6, that seems like a bad move on their part. So looking at this, looking at the 40-yard dash times, we're just seeing some crazy numbers, especially when you consider how stacked a lot of these guys are, that these aren't like little speedsters. You have some muscle-bound guys who can not only hit this top speed, but then can also break tackles, and that's crazy. So the big standouts are some players that we've actually broken down some tape of them already on this channel, with a 4.340 in Bashal Tootin out of Virginia Tech, seeing Jaden Blue run a really fast one, 4.38, and Brashard Smith. This is the name that really stuck out to me because we remember this is the guy that Zach Bye fell in love with. He is a former wide receiver converted to running back at SMU, and to see him run a sub 4.4, absolutely wild. So kind of some other things that really stood out was just seeing how great Omarion Hampton, the North Carolina running back, is looking, especially when you look at his RAS score. This is your relative athletic score, and they basically have this algorithm where they compare you to every single other position or player to play that position since they've started doing this like decades ago. And so at this point, they've compared 2,000 some running backs, and Omarion Hampton's size, speed, 40-yard dash time, his vertical jump, all of that would make him the 14th most physical specimen out of 1,900 running backs. So that's just absolutely crazy there to see. Really his 40 time being a 4.47 at the amount of speed that he has is just crazy. Seeing his vertical jump being a 38-inch vertical jump, really, really cool to see that. And again, this is not some sleight of frame dude, that this guy is stacked. He's got muscles like up in this area that I didn't even know existed. And so, you know, you look at this and say, man, well, why would I draft Ashton Genty at 20 if this guy could fall to the second round, or maybe he just rocketed up back into the first round? But I think the big takeaway is that like this class is deep, and there is no need to draft a running back when this class is so deep. The other player who's just blowing things out of the water, obviously we talked about him already, and that's Tootin out of Virginia Tech. And what really drops his RAS score down is just his height and overall weight, that he's 5'9", 206, so a smaller running back compared to if you take a look at Hampton's RAS score, that you have him, he's 5'11", almost 6 foot tall, and he's got another 20 pounds of muscle on top of what we have with Tootin. But you look at his 40 time of 4.340, and we've seen the highlights of him. He has an amazing burst, and it's not just a quick overall top speed, that he hits his 10-yard split very, very quickly as well. So my big takeaway after watching that is just that there are some explosive running backs in this class We did not see Cam Scatteraboo run a 40, but we did see him participate in other drills. That's a name that's been a lot of Broncos fans have been talking about just because of the attitude that he brings. He did show a crazy high vertical jump, and so he does seem to have that explosion. But was he looking at this list of overall like speeds and just saying, hey man, I don't want to be like the slowest running back in this class? Is that why he went and did not end up doing a 40-yard dash? It'll be interesting. Does he do that on his 40 time, and how will that compare? But I think this draft class is absolutely stacked. Then the other exciting thing is that the tight end draft class is also panning out and giving us a ton of answers. So looking here, former Heritage High School graduate, a Colorado native here in Terrance Ferguson. That's in the district, Littleton School District there with, I think, Arapahoe and Littleton High School, all in that district. He also was a former teammate with Bo Nix, and he had an incredible showing here at the NFL Combine today, where he came out and had the fastest 40-yard dash time, the highest vertical jump, and the fastest 10-yard split. So not only does he have a top-end speed that's blazing, he also has, like, his first 10 yards are quick, and that is absolutely what you need. Now, the exciting part of that is, like, well, what if Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland are both off the board? I don't want to reach and draft the third tight end in that class, but again, this is where you just trust Sean Payton to find his guy in whatever round that is. And how sick would it be to have a former Colorado graduate coming home, uniting Bo Nix with another one of his teammates? That could just be really, really cool. So to see his overall times is awesome. And then when you actually look at some of his POV route running here at the Senior Bowl, you see that speed actualize. And again, this is against some of the best corners and safeties at the Senior Bowl, and he is just creating insane amount of space. And that could just be a wildly exciting thing to have him paired back up with Bo Nix. And so maybe at this point, the Broncos truly do draft the best defensive player left on the board, knowing that Terrance is going to be on the board at 2 and probably even at 3, depending on how things go. Could we continue to make our strength moving forward and draft a defender and then end up reuniting these two next year? That could be really exciting. Let me know in the comments, are you excited at all by Terrance Ferguson? Now, looking at his overall numbers, like first, it is important to note that Colston Loveland has a shoulder issue and is not able to participate in any of these, and then Tyler Warren didn't test any of these, so it's very possible that Colston Loveland could have given him a run for his money when it comes to most of these, because he is a freak athlete as well. But, you know, he walks out of that combine saying, like, hey, I was the best athlete there, and you look at the tape and it backs that up. So really, really exciting thing there. And just looking at his RAS score of all the tight ends who've ever been tested, he's 53 out of 1,200 tight ends when it comes to his height. He's a 6'5" guy. His speed, you know, his weight at 247. You know, some of these tight ends are quite a bit more beefy. Now, the other thing that you start to see inside of the NFL Combine is just who's been overhyped, like whose tape did kind of overpraised what they could be. And this is a name to me that jumped out when I watched this film. I was very disappointed and underwhelmed. And this is Harold Fannin. Had incredible numbers at Bowling Green. But again, I don't know anyone, unless you're like a college football junkie, who can even tell us what conference Bowling Green is and who they play against. And so his competition isn't there. Just looking at his athleticism, like, I think he could block, but take a look on this gauntlet drill where they're instructed to, like, hey, you're doing a beeline down that I think this is the 30-yard, like, you're supposed to stick straight down that line, and realize that in the NFL, the speed is so equal that if you're deviating a little bit here and there, like, that's enough for a linebacker to close that gap. And just take a look, like, he looks like he couldn't even pass a sobriety test on here. He's all over the place. And then this last part of the drill has you round the corner and make your run upfield, and how awkward and hard that was for him to slow down and catch the edge there. And we just know, like, how many times have we seen Travis Kelce make a pivot and stop on a dime and head upfield? And that could not be a little more awkward there. So I think Harold Fannin Jr.'s stock is completely falling as we see Ferguson's stock completely skyrocket. Let me know how you're feeling about that. Last notable piece here is there's a bunch of wide receivers that we got to keep breaking down as the weeks continue, and we'll compare their combine numbers with some of the highlights from the year. But one of the ones that I was really disappointed was seeing Tez Johnson's overall 40 time. He weighed in at the combine as one of the lightest wide receivers. He'd be the lightest wide receiver in the entire league. You're talking 10 pounds less than your boy Ben here. 154 pounds. That's just very, very small. And so you're like, well, he'll be small, but this dude's going to be wildly, wickedly fast. And he's not even in the top 10 when it comes to wide receivers 40 times. That's just not a good sign. So his overall 40 time was a 4.51. And so his stock is going to drop. I could see a world where he doesn't even end up getting drafted because of that. And, that's where you got to compare not just their numbers at the combine, but also their film. And they're defenders of Tez saying like, hey, watch his tape and he creates separation. But that's just something, you got to weigh that in. But Broncos country, it was a great day. The the running back class is so deep. The tight end class has bangers all over the place. Sean Payton is going to come out of this draft with multiple weapons that's going to ensure Bo Nix does not have a sophomore slump. And that's something we should all believe in. Oh.